The man in charge of Australia's drought recovery effort says Australia should consider abolishing the states and territories after the coronavirus pandemic. Drought Coordinator-General Shane Stone spoke to Matt Cunningham. Matt joins me live now from Darwin. Matt, good morning to you. So he says farmers are being frustrated by those rigid border closures.
Yeah, he cited some examples, Pete, including people who have properties that straddle state borders who'd been told that to get to a part of their property they need to drive to a capital city, fly to another city and then drive back to the other side of their property. Also people who are unable to get to the closest town to where their property is because it's on the other side of the border, so they're being forced to drive hundreds of kilometres just to get basic supplies. Now, these are people who are already suffering, in some cases, they've been suffering for 7 years through some of the worst drought we've seen in this country. Shane Stone went as far as to say that we need to have a look at federation here in Australia and how it works, with the possibility that we need to look at abolishing the states and territories because of how this whole mess has transpired. Here's a bit more of what he had to say.
I never thought I'd find myself agreeing with the proposition, but perhaps states and territories have run their race. Do we really need them now that we've seen what can happen? I never thought I'd believe that, but I share the frustration of people trying to catch up with dying relatives, farmers trying to get to their properties, business people trying to, service both sides of the border. And I realise the lack of consistency is not in the national interest.
There has been some welcome rain in parts of the country in recent months, but Shane Stone says there are other parts of the country that are still suffering badly from drought. In particular, he said in Western Australia, but he says that's one part of the country his team has been unable to travel to because it's not deemed an essential service and the Western Australian hard borders are still in place.